Navneet, who wraps the large cap action. Suffice to say, Navneet, while 0.5% higher, a bit of a disappointing close.
That's right, Neeraj, we're off days high, but I guess the week was so volatile. For the week and at least for the day as well, we are, closing in the green. Sensex off days high, closing with gains of only 160 points, though it was up almost 300 points at one point of time. Nifty closing around the level of 10,320. Remember, Pradeep was mentioning a closing above the mark of 10,350 was quite crucial for Nifty today. Bank Nifty, however, didn't give up its gains, so just at around the same level with gains of almost 1%. And it was not only the benchmarks, even the broader markets were doing well and they've sustained their gains. The Nifty Mid-Cap 100 Free Float Index is closing with gains of 1%. The Small Cap is closing with gains of 82%. And you've got the BSE Mid-Cap Index closing with gains of almost 160 points. Let's look at Sensex constituents then. Let's see which are the stocks which contributed the most. So on the top, you've got M&M closing with gains of 3.5%. Coal India was up and about today, so that counter saw gains of 3%. Dr. Reddy's Laboratories, Adani Port, and your heavyweight, that's the stock which have contributed the most to Nifty and Sensex today. That's closing with gains of 1.8%. And Tata Steel, L&T, Axis Bank, Bajaj Auto, Hero MotoCorp are a couple of the gainers for today's trade. Let's quickly look at the losing side then. Your top loser on Sensex today was Cipla, down about 2.7%. ONGC was the other one which was weak in today's session. So actually the losses were capped. Besides Cipla, the losses were just between 0.3 to about 0.5%. Your heavyweight, State Bank of India, TCS were the ones, and ICICI Bank, which came off just in last half an hour of trade, because of which the markets have closed off days high. Pradeep.
Let's talk about some of the mid caps, and you'll have Bombay dying right at the top, as we mentioned during the show also. This was the star performer of last hour of trade, finally closing with gains of around 16% in today's trade. We mentioned it earlier, and when in this beginning of the show, when we looked at this stock, it was up around 6%. HCL Info is yet another gainer in today's trade, and also GNFC. Interestingly, this is just one of the Gujarat-based companies we are talking about here, but most of the Gujarat-based companies did well today, and they are going to end the day close to the highs. GNFC is just one example. I would like to mention that last week we also discussed about a technical move on this chart actually. Jet Airways remained among top gainers, but on the other side you had Shalbai Hospital that entered the market today, going to close with loss of 4 to 5% when I checked it last. And another sector, a mid-cap sector, which is sugar, didn't do well in today's market, while most of the mid-cap stocks were doing well. Look at Dhampur, look at Dwarikesh. So this was one segment which is correcting. In fact, today was a good session for commodities, but not so much for sugar, which has come off the highs recently. Neeraj.
Well, just before we can start with the contributors list as well, and show you what's really happened to some of the contributors today. But it's not, and you will see a fair bit of pressure that has come in from TCS and SBI, and the list of gainers has changed. It was HDFC Twins and Reliance at some point of time in the day. Reliance is out of the picture. HDFC is out of the picture as well. So it's just HDFC Bank which is out there. Yes Bank marginally out there. But the interesting chart is really that intraday chart of the Nifty PSU Bank Index. If we can pull that one up, you will see that what put a little bit of pressure, not pressure really, but a bit of a pullback really in the last half an hour to 45 minutes of trade. The PSU banks slipped into the red. Reliance slipped into the red, so that one came off too. And then a clutch of other names. But in terms of heavyweights, I think PSU Banks and Reliance, these are the two names that came off. HDFC 2 came off, but essentially these two, which put a bit of pressure. The market breadth too changing. This is the fall in HDFC, and then the market breadth too just converging towards the final few minutes of trade. But all in all, not a bad day of trade. Let's wait and watch. Monday could be a completely different day from what we believe it could be. And that should keep the market on tenterhooks. On balance, we close with a fair bit of red, a fair bit of green. Let's wait and watch if this lasts going into next week.